You're listening to the RMPodcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
To another episode of the Red Moon Podcast. That's right, I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian.
And
Keith Cheatham.
That's right, guys. We're welcome back to another week here. As you can see from our little marquee in the front,
Yes.
RM Podcast Live. We are on air.
Live. It's right there.
How's it feel to be back, guys? Another live episode this week. Y'all
It feels
feeling good?
Anytime I'm in the studio, I feel great.
Oh, you do?
It's a great moment. We got beautiful gifts from beautiful friends.
I know it is. I got this wonderful, lovely gift from our good buddy Jacob, who we celebrated the wedded bliss of him and Melissa this past weekend. Thank you, Jacob. Shout out to you out there for letting us be part of your special day.
Jacob, I know you'll appreciate this, but thank you for being a friend. He's a huge Golden Girls fan.
Yeah. Which it's funny because a lot of people out there would be like a man who's a huge Golden Girls fan at our age. You'd think he wouldn't be getting married.
That's true.
Or
To a man.
He beat us.
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds is a huge Golden Girls fan, and look at him.
That's
True.
That is true.
That's true.
That's true.
That's true. And he's Deadpool, so
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, that just makes sense, right?
yeah. So it was a great day, great weekend. Love the fact that you and Melissa walked down the aisle together.
Yeah.
Again, appreciate that wonderful.
Love the
it's
fact
just
that
so beautiful.
Love the fact that you
So
all made
beautiful.
us cry.
Yeah.
Like, just everyone.
I know.
I'm telling you,
Both of you. I mean, Jacob.
It was
with
like
the
being at a
vows,
funeral,
Melissa
but
with
it was
the
a wedding.
father-daughter. Yeah,
It
they were
was.
happy tears.
That's true.
They made you want to just go home and hug the people you love.
It really did.
Yeah.
It just made me wish it was all in a movie.
Yeah, like a Red Moon
was.
production. Jacob and
Ooh.
Melissa. No, they had Champ Game Productions there to film the wedding.
Yeah.
They didn't ask Red Moon. I'm just kidding. I'm not
Champ Game
offended
they
at all.
did a good
Just
job.
a joke.
They did good.
They actually did. I followed up with one of the guys there. I was talking to him.
He did, yeah.
They
I
were
saw.
like filming some
Yeah.
web series they were trying to promote. I'm throwing their name out here. Go
Nice,
check
yeah.
out Champ
Yeah.
Game. Hopefully they'll check us out someday.
Yeah, do the same.
But no, it was a fantastic day. I agree. Lots of tears. It was
Lots
incredible.
of
a lot of
beauty.
time. I'd like to think one day when I meet the right one, I'm gonna say those traditional vows. But the fact that they went with their own vows, I was actually very
No. Sometimes people do their own vows,
Yeah.
and it's terrible.
right.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
that was pretty amazing.
Yeah, Jacob's. Go ahead, Keith.
I was just gonna say, yeah, no, I was agreeing with Sean. Sometimes they're terrible, but Jacob just really, I mean, he's always been great with writing and just he's a poet at heart, really.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yes, he is.
it is very moving.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And as Melissa stated in her own vows, when she was just like, "You should have let me go first," because she was in tears. It was fantastic. It was wonderful. Not a dry eye in the audience. So great day. So congratulations to our buddy Jacob out there. But you know what? We got a lot of movie news to get to this week.
We got a lot of movie news. We got a review for you. Just a lot of great things going on.
I hope so.
You know.
I hope so.
Are you all excited?
But you can't see under the table, but yes,
Oh, well,
there's a sheer excitement.
I'm gonna do a little peek.
You can back up
Man,
there.
I'm telling you. Oh, I can't show the
Got
wide
my
shot right
short
now.
shorts
Don't
on
look under
too.
there.
Do that.
Don't do it.
It's like let me get to the wide shot. That table, the end of that table is sticking
know,
up just a little bit
you
more.
gotta
People
need the
watch
wide
us, and
shot.
sometimes I think they think it's like, man, these guys are very childish. But there's nothing wrong sometimes with being a little childish. Sometimes
No.
every adult male has maybe a kid inside. And,
Yeah.
You know, this
I love
movie
this.
coming up.
This
That's
guy
what-
is brilliant.
That's what people watch.
This
us
guy
for.
is
I
brilliant.
think that's what people watch us for. They know what they're getting.
They do. They know what they're getting, and just like us, the movie we're about to do, he has a kid inside him. Or
Yeah, what
maybe-
movie would that
maybe
be?
he is a kid.
Little?
And just no, not little, and not big either. But this movie did take some inspiration. Well, I mean, to be fair, it was its own thing in comic book form long before Big.
Yeah.
But I mean, still, it realizes that most audiences
Right.
are going to associate it with that movie. So
Yeah.
it did take a few cues and throw people a bone.
What
but,
movie is that?
DC's latest movie, Shazam.
Let's go to it.
After the release of Justice League, everyone was ready to hammer the last nail in DC's coffin. Yes, Wonder Woman had been a hit, but it was one good film out of 5. And DC's next film at the time, Aquaman, looked to be just as dismal as the others. Then something crazy happened. Aquaman released, and to everyone's surprise, was good. Maybe not the best, but it was fun, didn't take itself too seriously, and had lots of heart. Compared to Zack Snyder's bleak and cynical vision, this was a welcome change to the DCEU. Now, amongst several shakeups behind the scenes at Warner Brothers and DC, we see the release of DC's next movie, and just as Aquaman did, this film will tell its own story with its own rules. It too, however, will be fun, not take itself too seriously, and most importantly, contain a lot of heart. Shazam, the latest film in the DCEU, does not even feel as if it belongs in the same universe as Batman v Superman and Justice League. Directed by David F. Sandberg, Shazam isn't like anything seen in the DC before, while still somehow cementing itself as part of it all. Yes, Batman and Superman exist in this world, but the action focuses all on foster child Billy Batson. Billy has never given up the search for his mother and has been moved from home to home. After getting himself into trouble, Billy is moved to a new home, one which already has 5 other foster children. Billy, unwilling to give this new family a chance, continues to find himself in trouble, though does strike up a friendship with his foster brother, Freddy. After saving Freddy from the school bullies, Billy is transported from the subway to a temple where a wizard explains to Billy his quest to find a new champion to guard against the 7 deadly sins, demonic forces that have been trapped for centuries. Upon reluctantly accepting and yelling out loud the wizard's name, Shazam, Billy is transformed into a powerful hero. When the sins are released by a former candidate to become champion, Billy must learn to master his new powers while coming to terms with his new foster family. What makes Shazam so special isn't just its humor. Shazam may be DC's funniest film yet. With brilliant writing and comedic acting, Shazam also succeeds because it has something very few DC films have: heart and a message that speaks to everyone. Zachary Levi as the mighty hero Billy Batson becomes, referred to as the Red Cyclone by Freddy, is hilarious and a perfect choice for the role. Levi chews up scenery and proves to have a great comedic timing. The chemistry between Levi and actor Jack Dylan Grazer, who plays Billy's friend and foster brother Freddy, is hilarious and great. The pair feed off of each other, providing excellent moments that showcase the mind of a 14-year-old in an adult superhero's body. Director Sandberg truly got the most out of his actors' performances. The film definitely has the feel of Tom Hanks' Big, but with superpowers, and it knows it, even paying homage to Big. Shazam, however, while being its own thing, also is sure to remind you it's set in a larger world, a more serious world. Truly where the film struggles is mostly in pacing and tone at the very beginning. The film attempts to showcase the odd blend of themes and tones right out of the gate, and doesn't balance them well starting out. Once Billy receives his power, however, everything begins to level off, and Sandberg finds his pace. The visuals are stunning, with awesome action pieces and even slower emotional moments as well, even though not every plotline receives a satisfying payoff. Still, the movie offers laughs while balancing a serious story of what a superhero with the mind of a child would have to overcome to truly become a hero, and teaching a valuable lesson in family. Shazam isn't perfect, but still nails it, and if DC can continue to put out films like this, Aquaman, and Wonder Woman, they could very well give Marvel a run for its money. I give Shazam 3.5 out of 4 stars. All right, and that's my review of Shazam. 3.5 out of 4 stars. Excellent movie, really. I mean, it is incredible to think, you know, after seeing Batman v Superman and Justice League, it's like you just thought DC was done. You just thought it was over. Yeah,
we've said it a number of times on this show.
We did. We said they were dead. And I mean, yeah, Wonder Woman came out, but like I said in my review, that was 1 out of 5 movies released was good. Yeah. The rest of them terrible. So it's just like, yeah, that was a fluke. They had one good one. And then Aquaman came out, and then Shazam is now released. And they really have rethought their approach. They completely abandoned, like I said, that Zack Snyder bleak, cynical view of superheroes where every superhero is just like mopey and flawed and like, I guess I have to overcome my troubles and go save the world.
I'm not really a superhero.
I mean, it was terrible. Like, I mean, no one wants to, like, it's depressing. You want your heroes to uplift you and motivate you. You don't want to see them just be like, okay. I mean, it's bad. And the first, I mean, The first one to not do that was Wonder Woman. She was like a symbol of hope, and it was good. And then Aquaman followed suit, where he really embraced, kind of the campiness of his character and made it humorous and it didn't take itself seriously. And I mean, really,
that one really surprised me.
Yeah, when you see Jason Momoa in Justice League and you see him in Aquaman, and the only difference isn't necessarily how he portrayed it, but the tones of the film. Like, he was great in Aquaman because it fit the tone,
right?
Whereas it didn't with Justice League. So, similarly thing with Shazam, where it's all about that they know they're being comedic. It's supposed to be more of a comedy. They keep it to being its own film. Like, yes, it's part of the larger DC world, but they don't focus on that.
That's the biggest question
they
that
make
I
it
have,
its own
because
story.
We've known now that since Wonder Woman and Aquaman, which Wonder Woman was the only glimmer of hope, and we were all sold on the fact that Aquaman was going to be trash. Turned out to not be trash.
Yes.
And so now we've seen a resurgence in the other direction, which, yes, we're all thankful
We're hoping
for.
they keep
None of
going,
us saw it coming. But to me, we know that they're focusing now on the individual movies in the franchise.
They're focusing on making one movie at a time and worrying about the team-ups later, which is what they should have done to begin with. Introduce the characters, get people from... Even though, yes, people know who Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman are, you still have to introduce them, especially with all these other characters that people don't know, much like... I hate to call him Shazam because that's not really his name, even though that's the title.
Go ahead. What's his real name?
Okay, well, his actual name that they don't use anymore was Captain Marvel.
What?
Yeah. Originally, he was owned by Fawcett Comics, and they actually outsold Batman and Superman back in the day, like by a lot, and DC, like it ticked DC off. And they sued Fawcett Comics, saying that the character of Captain Marvel was too similar to Superman, and they thought it was like copyright infringement. They said he's too close to our character you copied, and they actually won. And then sometime later, like Fawcett never really recovered from that, and they end up pretty much having to go bankrupt. And DC bought them, and Captain Marvel became their character. But karma, as they say, is a B word. And they bought the character, used the character, never copyrighted or trademarked the name Captain Marvel. So along comes Marvel Comics, who makes their own character, Captain Marvel. And after a while, they're like, you know what? We don't like the fact that you're using, even though Marvel's character came after, they sued DC because Marvel actually copyrighted the name, which DC didn't do. So even though DC had the character first, Marvel trademarked it first and said, okay, we can. So
this is crazy. I never knew any of this went on. This is nuts.
For years, they still called him Captain Marvel, but they couldn't sell or promote the comics with that name. They had to call the comic Shazam.
Well, because it wasn't like Marvel had a lock on the actual name itself.
No, they just
couldn't.
The comic title,
trademark Captain Marvel, but the name could be used for
DC
someone else.
DC changed the name of the comics to Shazam, which is the name he yells out to become Captain Marvel. But they still called him Captain Marvel. Then after so many years of people getting confused and back and forth, they just kind of dropped that name altogether. I mean, they still sometimes use it in the comics, but not as much, and they basically just use Shazam. But yeah, that wasn't really his name. That's actually the name of the wizard that gives him his powers. So it was really interesting. And this movie doesn't...
Is that Shaq?
Yeah. But this movie doesn't use the Captain Marvel title, which I understand. I mean, after, Marvel, they released the movies around the same time, Captain Marvel and Shazam, so it would be... I can see why DC's like, yeah, we don't want to come out like a month later with Captain Marvel and people be like, wait a minute, what's going on here?
Right.
So they don't refer to him at all. Like I said, in the movie, his foster brother Freddy just calls him, they nickname him the Red Cyclone because they're just kids spouting off names. I mean, there is a whole... It is very comedic and really well done in the sense, there's this whole, you see in the trailers where he's trying to discover his powers, and they actually make references to, the larger DCU in that moment. I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a few scenes where they're testing out, to see if he has the same powers as other heroes that are in the...
Yeah.
So, in those ways, that's how they tie it into the larger world. Those characters exist. Batman, Superman, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, they're all out there. They live in this world. But this is a much smaller scale. It's focused on Billy Batson and his character. So therefore, you don't ever see those characters per se. You just hear about them, and you see newspaper clippings of things that have happened where those heroes were active. Because this is all about him discovering who he is and how his powers work. And it's really good because it's not just a comedy. Even from the very beginning, it starts out on a more serious note to kind of let you know, hey, yeah, we've advertised this as a comedy, but there are... serious moments.
But I think that's good in general because it's funny, but that's actually as many DC films as we've seen now that have tried obviously all the Zack Snyders have overdone the moodiness, and it's funny to actually see the relevancy come back for these characters and actually care about them in the ways that they've been wanting us to.
Yeah,
and we just haven't had a reason to because
Right.
there was no character development there enough for us to sink our teeth into. So now that we actually are building the characters, and then you can have those slower moments that actually impact you in the way that they've always wanted.
What's really good about this movie is, I mean, it starts off, and because they start off more serious to let you know there'll be, and then it gets into some goofy, and the pacing and that balance is a little off at the beginning because they're trying to cram like all of this stuff in the very beginning to kind of let you know what type of movie it's going to be, and it just doesn't flow naturally.
Right.
But like I said, once he gets his powers, like from there it's smooth sailing. They hit their stride. They know exactly what they're doing. And I mean, it's really good. Like I said, it misses a few times, hence, I mean, the 3.5 instead of 4. And there are some goofier parts that I was like, I kind of wish they maybe toned back a little, just because, like, I mean, it is more of a comedy than a typical superhero movie.
Right.
But there's still some things that can be a little silly.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not bad. Like I said, I mean, it's still 3.5 stars. That's really good. There's just the minor things that kind of irked me that I was like, maybe. Like I said, like with the 5 kids, we kind of get like there's at some point kind of like a Goonies vibe, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but at the same time, like within a superhero movie, what the amount of help children can kind of give you is there's a certain believability. Like I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm just like I feel like they kind of
it's far fetched. It's too far.
Only slightly, not real bad, but there's just some parts where I'm like I don't know about all of that, but I mean. It's still really well done, and again, I mean, they're trying to showcase the fact that, like, you know, he's a kid in like this superhero's body. It's like, how would that work? And the fact that, you know, he doesn't take it seriously at first. Of course, no kid would. I mean, it's like you find out you have superpowers, you're gonna do whatever the heck you want.
Yeah.
And then
Which
of course,
to me is the part that made this seem so appealing.
Yeah,
it is,
it's
but
fun,
then he learns like the consequences of the fact, kind of like Spider-Man. Great power comes great responsibility. It's the fact that he realizes that there are consequences to what he does and to his powers, and learning that, and the fact that like he was chosen for the specific purpose of protecting the world, and it's like, okay, you accepted that, so that now helps, you have to live up.
That
to
helps
it.
Mature him. Throughout the film. Yeah,
because it's kind of like he doesn't like. Well, it helps the fact that too that he's searching for his mother. He was abandoned. He's been shipped from foster home to foster home because foster home. Sorry, and he knows that his mother's out there, and he's trying to find her throughout, and. You just kind of it's really well done, the emotional scenes too, because you do see him kind of mature and realize that family isn't always just like, you know, your blood relatives, and it is him learning to mature and realize that he's not in, you know, as bad a situation as he thought. It's really good. Like I said, there are really great themes and really good moral messages in there, which is something that Wonder Woman had great themes and messages. Aquaman did, and it's kind of funny how you look at like the movies that were bad, like Justice League. There was nothing.
What was there? There wasn't anything.
There was nothing I could take. The best moment in Batman v Superman was between Clark and Lois.
Yes,
and that was the only human moment in that entire movie. So
well, honestly, in the entire DCU.
I mean, it really was.
Bad.
So it's nice to see those human elements come into play and see that like. That's the problem is, yes, these characters have these amazing powers and can do anything, but they still have to be relatable. Otherwise, you don't care.
Right.
And now they are. They're finally making them relatable.
Yeah.
So
right. And adding that touch to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which, I mean, is changing the game in terms of the last 3 DC. And we said this was the hope with the changing of the guard up at the top after Justice League. After Justice League flopped like crazy.
Well, after they outed Zack Snyder.
And they outed Zack Snyder, and they outed everybody there that was in charge of the entire DCU.
There's a lot of stuff that they scrapped. I mean, they scrapped Suicide Squad 2 and decided to just start over.
And now they're starting over with who they just add to the cast?
James Gunn.
James Gunn's directing it. But I forgot who it is.
Idris Elba's going to be in it.
Idris Elba
he's not going to be Deadshot though. That's what everybody was thinking. He's not going to be Deadshot. He's a new character.
They're changing. Like they added, like they're bringing back some of the old cast. Like Margot Robbie's still going to be in it, but they are changing some of the cast. It's funny because it's kind of like a soft reboot. It's like the parts that they think worked, they're keeping. The parts that don't work, they're redoing. And I mean, more power to them, because that's basically what the entire DCEU is doing now. It's like they're keeping the parts that work. They're keeping Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, but Batman's changing. That didn't work.
Yeah. This has been our hope for the whole time. We were worried for the
they could have done
time.
it sooner, because I feel like they've wasted several years investing in something bad.
Yeah,
and they could have just come to this realization a lot sooner when people first started remarking and saying this is a mistake.
Yeah.
And it's taken them this long to get there.
But I blame us as well. I mean,
we went to see the movies.
Exactly. And I think
we
for the
laugh at them.
Right. For the longest time, we kept showing up at the theater. Not us in particular, but the fans in general.
Yeah.
And it's like for the longest time, there were enough people who were giving them the benefit of the doubt, movie after movie after movie.
You've got to pay for a ticket to see what they've got. I mean, it's an exploratory thing.
But it's weird that I mean, here's the thing: by no stretch of the imagination did technically Justice League failed compared to Marvel and compared to even their other past installments. But it still made money because of people's intrigue.
Which, I mean, disappointed them because that was nowhere near to what a Marvel movie does.
Exactly.
But still, $800 million is a huge chunk of money.
Right.
So,
But that's what's interesting is for them, they might have been saying, look, people can trash these all they want, and critically it can get panned. But if people are showing up and putting butts in the seats, there may be that small, or that one little majority out there that loves to go see these movies, and they love them for what they are.
Yeah.
And so we're going to keep catering
Justice
to them.
League had the biggest fall off from weekend to weekend, though, than any other film.
Yeah.
So word of mouth is DC's destruction.
Right.
And I think with movies like this and Wonder Woman and Aquaman, that's got me laughing now. It's technical difficulties going on.
They always
the walls
happen.
are falling apart around us.
I can't
But
show it.
I mean, with those movies, I think it's safe to say that they're on the right track now.
Yeah.
And it does have me hearing his review. It makes me want to go see it, even though I hadn't got to see it. Yeah, I want to see it. But it's got me a little more excited for this next Suicide Squad, and it's got me excited.
Well,
for,
and honestly,
Matt Reeves' Batman movie?
Another Batman.
I already like Matt Reeves as a director. I think he's a solid director, so I'm interested to see what he has. They've already said that they've basically scrapped the Flash movie they were going to do, and they're going to start over something different. And they're talking about
recasting.
They're talking about recasting, which I hope they do. I think Ezra Miller was a terrible choice for the Flash, but the only keep Jason Momoa, keep Gal Gadot. And I wish they would keep Henry Cavill. And apparently, even though they had said he's out, apparently the rumor is that they're still
tossing around ideas.
They're still negotiating with him.
Yeah.
So
I think that role is I think he's the perfect match.
I think he's a perfect choice for it. I think
he just needs better direction.
Yeah,
the
faults I don't think were his because
Yeah.
I've seen him in other stuff and he's been fine.
Yeah.
So I think it was
the
Zack
entire
Snyder.
universe surrounding all the DC. Comic book
and they've
characters.
completely. I mean, Cyborg was supposed to be one of their next movies, and they've completely kind of shoved that aside too.
I mean, honestly, it has given me a little bit of hope now that the trailers dropped, and having seen these last three do so well. But I am now hopeful for the Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah, the Joker movie looks good. They've already announced Wonder Woman 1984. They already said that it'll follow the continuity of the first Wonder Woman. But what was established in the first Wonder Woman movie, but they said it's not going to follow any of the continuity set in Batman v Superman and Justice League.
Good.
Yeah.
They said it'll follow the first Wonder Woman, but it's going to ignore those movies completely. So I was like, that's fine.
Like what the rest of us did.
Because in those movies they make the statement that she's been in hiding for years and hasn't shown herself. But then in 1984, apparently she's going to actually be pretty prominent and famous, and people know who she is. And it contradicts that, and they're like, well, yeah, we know, and we did that on purpose because we're not going to.
Good for them for finally standing up and saying, look, we know what we did is trash. And we know now what we can do to recoup and get back to the basics and start world building from the bottom up. And that means starting with individual DCU characters. So I think nothing but good things are coming for the DC universe. Shazam is another good installment after Wonder Woman and after Aquaman. In fact, it was funny. I told Keith that I got a YouTube notification saying Aquaman 2 trailer from Warner Brothers. Yeah. And I was like, I was about to be like, oh, gosh, check this out. I thought I got something early. Yeah. No, it was Shazam.
Shazam.
And it was like, it started up with the trailer and it showed the logo Aquaman 2.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it fell down. And of course, Shazam starts walking down on the screen.
Oh, okay.
I was like, all right, they pulled a little Deadpool.
Yeah.
I can see it, which is fine. Yeah. But I'm like, at least they're starting to get. They're starting to recognize that the characters themselves are what make the universe that's what makes it matter, not the style in which the stories are told, because the story had no substance with no characters, and that's what Zack Snyder's was.
Like
his universe was empty.
Every
way.
hero in Justice League didn't want to be a hero. I mean,
that's right.
Aquaman didn't want. He just wanted to be left alone. Batman, which Batman's supposed to be brooding.
He's supposed to be dark.
Yeah, but the rest of them are not. Yeah, Aquaman wanted to be left alone. Ezra Miller just he was like,
emo.
He's like, oh, I can't do this. I'm not good enough. It's like none of them actually wanted to save anybody, and I'm like, this is terrible. Yeah. What type of superhero? Like none of them want to be superheroes.
I was gonna say you can make them flawed, but it's like they don't. It's not that they all have to hate themselves and want to kill themselves.
yeah.
It's like I could just.
Ultimately though, they're supposed to know their purpose though.
Yeah.
And
I could see Superman sitting there like trying to get his wrist.
Like, he can't.
I can't do it. I can't do it. It won't end.
It was.
Got a knife made out of kryptonite, and you still can't do it. God,
it is. It's just bad, but I mean, Shazam definitely good movie. I'm really happy. And here's the thing, like, because I love both. I mean, you have the whole DC versus Marvel feud, and you have diehard fans on both sides. But I've always loved both. But I've always been more fond of DC, like the comics, and it's always been just terrible. The fact that like their movies have been terrible. Yeah, it's like you have these great iconic characters, and you can't do anything with them.
Yeah,
it's sad.
It is. But I think we're now seeing the turning of the tide.
Yep,
which is good. It's good. So Shazam, 3.5 out of 4 stars. Definitely worth watching. Definitely worth checking out. I guess we're ready to move on to our topic of the week.
Boom.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, we actually got like 2 topics of the week, guys.
Uh-oh.
Oh yeah, we're getting a little. It's going to be a little crazy.
What'd it be?
Well, I think if you saw our headlines at the beginning of the show, our first topic, and we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
They're about to start making. They're about to make their first big purchase in the brick and mortar. Going to have an actual theater.
This is just them
you
saying,
can go to.
Hey, Spielberg,
we can do it.
Shut it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think the Department of Justice already said that.
Yeah, they did. They really did.
Too true. But the fact is that because we know now that they are looking to purchase, which Keith, you had some information on this beforehand, the famous Egyptian
The Egyptian theater is really impressive. It's the theater that hosted the very first Hollywood premiere.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They
even more of a way to say,
Yeah.
hey, Spielberg, shut up.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing. Even though when you think about like the history of Hollywood and the Oscars and stuff, really the Egyptian is kind of like the start of that, because he opened that theater, but he also opened the Chinese theater, which is a huge theater.
Yep.
And
iconic.
It's very
Hollywood.
iconic. I mean, they did some of the Oscars at the Chinese, because they switched in the early years. They switched out a lot of which theaters like the Oscars was hosted at before they finally landed at the Kodak, which is now not the Kodak.
Not the Kodak. Oh gosh.
I mean, it was the Kodak, but now it's Paramount. Is that it?
No.
No, they did it at the Paramount too.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, fine. But anyways, yeah, the Chinese was based off of the Egyptian theater. I mean, the same guy opened both, and it was the first like palace style theater. I mean, when you walk in, it looks like not like a movie theater, but like you're going to see a play. I mean, you have all the curtains and
the Dolby.
The Dolby.
Yeah.
The Dolby now. But yeah, you go in and it looks like kind of like, I mean, it's horrible. People don't know.
People don't know.
Like
the Louisville Palace.
But yeah, you walk in and you're not thinking movie theater. You're thinking like a stage theater, because it has the stadium seating and the curtains, and it's very gorgeous.
Yep.
And it's just a very, for what it is, a very historic theater in Los Angeles. Opened in 1922, aired Robin Hood, and that was the first Hollywood premiere that
Just
they
crazy,
did. Yeah. And they that was the only place you could actually see that movie for like a whole year, was at exclusively at the Egyptian. It's very impressive to me that Netflix is like, we're not just going to buy a theater, we're going to buy a piece of cinema history.
Boom.
Yeah.
I know, exactly.
What's even more impressive is they're not really changing a lot. They're going to allow it to operate in the same vein. They're just going to show some of their films on weekdays and then some of their big like premieres and stuff like that. But to allow it to remain the way it is and not call it Netflix theater and all of this stuff, like I like that.
Well, they said part of them buying it is because they want to preserve
the history
and bring back some of the
see, and that's honestly the best way for this argument that they've had with Hollywood is it's like, guys, just because we're newcomers to the game does not mean we don't have the same love of film.
Yeah, it doesn't mean we're not nostalgic.
Right. Yeah. And it's like at the end of the day, that is their business.
Yeah.
Their business rests on the fact that they have content provided to whoever wants to watch it, and that they want to be taken as a serious player. And I think this, again, is another step in the game of trying to prove not just they're here to make a buck. Of course they are. They're a business, but so is Hollywood.
Yep.
And it's like they want to make sure that they are in the halls of fame when it comes to thinking about Hollywood. It's not just Hollywood anymore. It's your Amazon Primes and your Netflixes. And so, I mean, we've beat this dead horse, but it's like I'm with you, Keith. It's like to see it actually finally coming to fruition, and then also that they're buying up such a significant piece.
Yeah. I mean, that's what really.
I didn't
Hollywood
expect them
history.
to do that. I mean, we've talked about it on the show probably well over a year ago that Netflix would eventually buy their own theaters or open their own theaters and solve this dilemma of the Oscars. And here it is happening.
Well, and even just talking about that. So obviously now it's like they definitely can't be like, well, all theaters but this one. You know, they can't try to exclude them out that way.
Nope.
So basically, Netflix really is going for the jugular and saying, we'll freaking buy our own theaters.
That's right.
We'll freaking make them. But if that being the case, it's like, how do you think this all plays out in terms of them not only buying their first brick and mortar theater, but when it comes time to do the Oscar talks? I mean, they're already playing by the rules.
Yes.
I guarantee you that they'll air like the movies they want to be nominated for Oscars. I guarantee that they'll show them in that theater for however long they have to be.
What is it?
To qualify. I think it's 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Yeah. 3 weeks.
But it also had to be in theaters in certain
it has
cities,
to be.
didn't it?
It has to be certain
Well,
cities.
it has to be in Los Angeles is one of them.
So that's
and
one of them.
The Egyptian is in there. So I mean,
so they've pretty much got it covered.
Yeah, they're like, okay, bam, there you go.
Yep.
We got it. I'm thrilled.
I am too.
I'm thrilled for them.
just like you said, I thought they would open up like Netflix theater,
Well,
like they would do that.
I don't think they're not going to do that.
No, I
think
don't
they
think
still
so
will,
either.
but this is the first step to show we're in it for the long
Yeah,
haul,
absolutely.
and there's not really anything you can do to stop
well,
us.
and again, I think for them to do it, it's not just about being considered, I guess, part of film history, so to speak, or buying up a theater that is part of film history. But I also think it's the type of theater that it is. It sets a different kind of ambiance and a different kind of feel about going to the movies.
Yeah.
And it shows the elegance in which they want to. They definitely want to preserve.
Yeah.
They
could have easily opened their own modern,
exactly
futuristic-looking theater,
right.
Or whatever. But the fact that they're saying, here we are, we're not looking to change anything other than giving people more content,
right,
and being taken seriously when it comes to award time. And
also saying, look, our argument against we're not opposed to people going to the theater.
No.
Yeah,
we don't want people just viewing our stuff
movies
in the home
theater.
Right.
Yeah.
So for them to make that claim by buying a theater, it's just like, again, what argument do you have, Spielberg? Like where are you left at? Like what is your beef with Netflix? I think it's a
with
genuine
Apple
question.
TV and his thing with Apple TV Plus and that going through, and I think people are already pretty much calling him a hypocrite. I think you're going to hear his voice die down. I know the government should never step in and take control of anything like this, but even after the DOJ saying you might want to back off a little bit because this could be antitrust stuff, I think like you're going to hear Spielberg kind of roll a little bit.
I think he realizes he's fighting a losing battle.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, honestly, it's a losing battle because of popularity.
Yeah.
No.
It's like this is what the people want.
Well, I mean,
so why even fight it?
No, I don't.
It's like you're fighting, like change is what he's doing. He's fighting progress. And Hollywood's always been like that. Just like I've mentioned before, they fought sound, they fought color. They it's like every time something comes to change, digital.
Yeah.
And it's like, and that's all this is just once again, older person in Hollywood who's used to. Well, this is classic cinema, and we don't want to lose that. It's like, yeah, we're not losing that, but there could still be progress in how you view film, like, differently. It doesn't have to. Yeah. You can hold on to the brick-and-mortar theaters. Nobody's saying they want those to go away, but at the same time, you can have your Netflix. I mean, they can coexist. You don't have to say, well, let's burn down every theater and only watch Netflix at home.
Well, yeah, which has never been the argument. That's the thing. Netflix has never made that argument.
Nope.
It's just they're finally big enough to actually make the argument of saying, we wanted this all along.
Yeah.
It's just we had to go a different route because the market demanded it. And so because this is what people wanted, They wanted the access to buying DVDs and not having to go to a Blockbuster or a Hollywood Video. Boom, they're out of business. Now you can get them delivered to your home directly in the mail. Oh, people don't even want to order DVDs and wait for them.
Yeah.
It's like now we're waiting on an internet
Exactly.
to catch up with us so you can actually stream content in your own home. It's like, and the thing is while they've listened, it's not like they've ever said, I mean, I'm sure that everyone who is at Netflix, who loves movies, they've all grown up with seeing an iconic movie in the theater. They've always...
That's what put them in the positions they're in, is their love for cinema.
Right, exactly. So it's like, with that being the case, they obviously... they want to preserve that, and they want that to continue to go. And I think this is a fantastic way to... I knew it was only going to be a matter of time, but for them to be buying such an iconic theater, and not only that, but to finally be in that game plan of doing that and moving that needle forward, again, I'm still rooting for Netflix until they really piss me off,
definitely.
and raise the price like they're about to do. So
well,
maybe we'll talk about them then. How about that?
I'm sure we will, but
For right now, they're on a good side.
Yeah, it's worth $2 more.
You know who's not on my good side?
Your mom?
That was cold.
I'm sorry, I didn't say her name. That's our rule, is we don't say her name.
No, well, that is a rule.
We don't say their names.
No, because if you say the name, it's
That
like
makes
it's
it
gone
personal.
too
real.
far.
It's personal.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, we're gonna
personal
fight.
once you mention the name.
Yeah. Okay.
Who else are you mad at?
I'll tell you I'm mad at. Who? I'm mad at LeBron James.
Oh,
I
I
don't
can't stand LeBron
I don't know why.
because he's not doing his job and getting Space Jam 2 made.
Okay, that's not fair because he has nothing to do with it.
All right, shut up. I'm
I
giving
don't
you a
even
little
want
bit of
Space
slack.
Jam 2, so
You don't?
no, I don't.
Why?
I'm
I didn't
interested
like
in
Space
it.
Jam 1.
I love Space
Are you
Jam
serious?
I didn't like that movie.
I know. I'm with you, Keith. It was like a
Yeah.
childhood classic.
Yeah,
I didn't like it as
I
a
loved
kid,
it.
and I don't
Bill
like
Murray?
It now. Bill Murray's funny, but
Yeah.
when I was a kid, I didn't know who Bill
Danny
Murray
DeVito
was.
is the voice of the main villain.
I
It's
get,
great.
I get it.
It's
I get it.
fantastic. And
Michael
and I
Jordan
will say
can't
this.
act to save his life.
I
Like,
know,
just
that's
didn't
part of
like
the
it.
charm.
That is part
It's
of the
great.
charm.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. We know LeBron can act.
Yeah.
He has done. Yeah.
I will
And,
agree,
I mean,
though,
with,
Keith.
with,
I'm not
with
a fan
Ryan
of Looney Tunes
Coogler,
either, so there's
Ryan
part of the
Coogler's
problem.
helping to. Oh, I love Looney Tunes.
No.
That's one of my favorites.
I'm
so,
I'm
yeah.
actually not a fan of Looney Tunes.
Oh,
either.
man.
No, I'm not either.
Yeah, I love the Looney Tunes. But yeah, with Ryan Coogler
Sorry,
helping to
Nathan.
write it, though, I think it'll be good.
Yeah.
The problem, though, is that all these basketball players have different shoe contracts.
Exactly.
And
So that's why I'm
Would
I'm
you
willing to
imagine
give
that's
him a little
something
bit
that
of
would
leeway.
hold a movie up as shoes?
yeah.
I mean, can you just think about that? for a
So
second?
because the original, which I actually knew this before reading the article, but the original Space Jam was based off of a Nike's commercial back in the '90s. There was the Air Jordan commercial. It was
I
called,
actually didn't know.
Yeah,
that.
it was called Hair Jordan. It was a commercial. The director of
funny.
the
Oh,
director,
yes.
the
Yes, I
director
did.
of the original Space Jam actually he directed the commercial, and it was called Hair Jordan. It had Michael Jordan and Bugs Bunny in the ad promoting Jordans, the Nike shoe, and it was this commercial was such a success that like Warner Brothers and Nike, and they were like, hey, we could maybe make a whole movie off this and make some more cash, and they did.
Yeah.
So of course Nike is heavily advertised in Space Jam. I mean, Air Jordans are like, I mean, everything Jordan ever promoted. Actually, there's a scene in the movie. It's hilarious where the guy that played Newman from not Frasier.
he
from
was
Seinfeld.
in Jurassic Park too.
Yeah. He was also in Jurassic Park. That guy that plays Michael Jordan's assistant.
Yes.
There's a
Say
there's
the
a
magic
moment
word.
in the original movie where he's like, put on your Nikes, your Hanes. We'll grab a Big Mac on that. He names everything that Michael Jordan ever promoted in the night, and it's hilarious because he name drops, and because they had to have all those in the movie, like that was part of his contract, was that every single one of those had to have something. So they did it all in one scene, and it's hilarious because he name drops every promotion in one sentence, and it's great. But of course, because Nike's so huge, and that's where the original idea came from, it also has to be in the sequel.
Yes.
And Adidas and Under Armour are like, no,
Nope. And they're like, we got clients here that you're wanting to. Here, I will say this first off, we definitely have a way better selection of actors in the NBA today, and maybe that's just because everybody's got to be a showboat anymore.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
you've got to
absolutely.
sell yourself. But it's like with LeBron James, we know he can act, and all these other people that he's wanting to get in the film, I think are definitely going to be way better than freaking Larry Bird.
Hey, Larry
and,
Bird was great.
Yeah.
Kareem Abdul.
I mean, even the
Kareem
commercials
in
they
that?
do
Wasn't
are
he in
really.
the original?
Charles
Barkley.
Charles Barkley was in
Charles
it.
Barkley's a classic.
That was great.
In fact, he could
Yeah.
probably make a cameo to come back.
I love when he's sitting in church. He's like, I'll never talk bad to my mama again. But yeah, they said apparently they're going to try to focus less on like having this all-star talent like they did in the first one. which I mean, whatever works. I mean, I'm interested to see how the movie works out. But yeah, they said they just can't get as many people because they all have different shoe contracts, and
that is the funny thing. I think it is funny, but at the same time, this is money. Money talks.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when you sign these deals, and they're multi-million-dollar deals with shoe companies or any freaking athletic wear, you're making that
commitment.
I mean, you're making that commitment that I'm only going to promote you. It would be nice to, I think, even if they can make a joke in the movie. Not only about that, but just have all the brands and like have a scene where maybe they just get their brand in there and then the Nikes and the rest of it. And I don't know, but it's just like it would be nice to see them play nice.
I think Adidas and Under Armour would be willing to do that, but I think like Nike's like
Nike probably won't.
They're like we want us showcased. We don't want these other shoes.
Exactly. They want exclusivity when it comes to promotion
Adidas and
of
Under
their own
Armour,
product.
Yeah, and then of course Adidas and Under Armour would be like, well, we're not going to let them do the movie if we can't have some type of promotion in there.
No.
So yeah,
Which I don't blame them. I mean, look, it's their product, and it's like when they got shoes blowing out on the court, you gotta protect it.
Yeah.
It's like, come on.
I know it.
So I absolutely think yes. I think it's funny. I'm looking forward to Space Jam 2. I still hope we could get through this. We just got to find enough decent, well-known NBA players that can act
some NBA
and
players,
are Nike.
Yeah, that are supported by Nike.
Exactly. So that's what we're hoping for. So Space Jam 2 is not completely
out.
It's
beyond
still, it's
happening.
still going to happen. They just have to work around all these players with different shoe contracts.
Right. So we'll get there.
It is funny. You don't think of of all the things
to hold something
that can go wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
I know. It's hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah.
So I think we'll get there though. I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be
Nike might not let it be made if they feature the national anthem in the movie.
Ooh. Maybe no. What if Adidas and Under Armour come to him and say, "Listen, he'll be decked out in Nike."
Yeah.
But you could put Colin Kaepernick in there.
No.
And it's just like, oh man, that'll be it. That'll be what they sell them. I think they'll cave for that. You don't think so?
What if they had gone that route though? I mean, like Air Bud, where like every movie's a different sport. What if Space Jam 2? What if instead of getting a basketball star, what if they had done like football and then like?
I honestly
think couldn't be Space Jam. It'd have to be Space Touchdown.
Space.
Well, what space? You could do Space Jam.
Space Jam.
Well,
you don't jam anything.
You don't jam. You
in
jam
football. When
Yeah,
they jam
true.
their knuckles or something.
A jam when
Jam
they
a
get
thumb.
when they get a touchdown.
Yeah.
Space
Jam.
turf.
Oh, Space Jam.
Yeah. Space turf.
Space turf.
Alrighty, guys. Well, we're looking forward to Space Jam 2 whenever they finally do get things settled down. And LeBron, he's still pushing though. He's still fighting.
He's fighting for it. He's wanted this for like his entire career.
Oh yeah, he
Space
has.
Jam 2.
He definitely has. So, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, buddy.
Are y'all ready for our unique weekly segment?
I've been waiting.
Always.
Oh, let's get to it.
I like it.
Oh, he's joined you, Keith. How you feel about that?
I feel adequate.
Well, you are.
Well, obviously he joined you. He must think you're adequate.
I can't get over there.
No,
to you. I'd have to roll over the table or something.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of process involved in trying to get
That's
the brand
true.
inside.
I could go under the table, but then people would
That'd
get
probably be the easiest.
a different impression.
I don't know. I already
wrong
checked under the table
Yeah.
earlier, and I didn't like what I saw under there. I was a little bit scared.
Oh man.
So what's the unique weekly segment?
I'll tell you what the unique weekly segment is.
Ask me a question.
However, we have to be very careful with this topic
Yeah.
because
Why?
we could end up saying some things that we
What the
shouldn't
hell's
say.
wrong with it?
Very good on you, Sean.
Mm.
The question is, how often do you swear?
Oh,
Ooh.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Take that back.
hey.
Too damn much.
So, guys, well, and I wanted to have a little bit deeper.
Get a little edgy here.
So it's like, how often do you swear? And there's a couple follow-ups. It's like,
Oh.
are there certain people you only swear around? You know, do you only say certain words? Are there certain words you won't say?
Yeah.
Let's get into it, guys.
It is. It's interesting. Yeah.
I only cuss in front of church people.
I mean, it's best they forgive you the easiest.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. They
Yeah.
have to. They can't judge.
Exactly.
Usually, I do all my cursing in the Catholic Church so that I can
Confess.
confess and
Just
do it all over again. I'm not Catholic, so that's not true.
I don't think God.
That's
I don't
false.
think God forgives those. Just
Well,
saying.
he forgives other things. So
Oh.
So then, all right, let's break it down then. So how often do you swear? Do you? I mean, again, let's
Actually-
start it with like, is it frequent throughout the day? Does it depend on the day?
Oddly, a
Mood?
little less now than I used to, which I'm happy for.
Really? You used
well,
to swear more?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow. All right.
But because we started doing the podcast and we have to watch what we say.
So,
Yeah,
hell,
sometimes.
I've watch what I say outside. Well, I mean, I don't personally care that I swore so much anyways, or even now. But once it's one of those. It really is a vice. It's one of those things
Yeah.
that once you get in the habit of
It's
doing
hard to
it,
get rid of.
it's
It
hard
really
to break.
is.
And then you're like, man, I gotta stop doing that.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you do slip up and say it around the wrong person or something.
Yeah.
Eventually, yeah.
And
because I
can't
mean,
catch
at time,
yourself.
I mean, it does. Like the more you do it, the worse you get. Where you're cursing in front of people that you would have never cursed in front of before. And really, I mean, it's kind of we all do it, but it's kind of hypocritical to be like, I'll curse here but not there anyways.
Yeah.
So it's like
turn it off and turn it on.
So it's like if you have to turn it off at all, that means you probably shouldn't be doing it
Yeah.
to begin with.
Yeah.
So, but
Well,
yeah,
I was gonna say that's kind of where I'm at a bit of
parents, people's like other people's parents, because it's like, man, they don't
Well,
know
I was
me,
gonna
don't
say
know
it
them.
depends. To me, it does depend on the setting.
a respectful thing,
Exactly,
too.
it's about politeness.
You want to be respectful, and so you don't want to just walk into somebody's house you never met before and be like, "What the H?" Like
What the
you know,
H?
yeah,
Oh!
That H, you won't even say
Don't-
hell. On
I was gonna
live?
say
I've
I'll
already,
say
I've already
hell.
said one curse word. Just trying not to say too
Oh.
many. You know?
Well, too many we get fined, guys.
Yeah,
okay?
exactly.
That's how
Oh,
this internet
oh.
works. Yeah.
It's like,
Dag
what the
on it.
you bleeping idiot.
Bleep, bleep, bleep.
Actually, it would be
sound
funny.
like an NWA album.
Oh, wow.
I wish honestly,
I've never been that bad. Never been that bad.
I wish I would have added like a special bleep on this episode, and I could have just pressed it, and we could have just
Could've been like
had a
talked and had
tone.
the
a
tone.
tone.
I can
time.
make. You want me to do
Yeah.
it? I can just.
The most annoying sound in the world.
But no, I really do think like to me it is about respect and politeness, and
Yeah,
and honestly, to me you have to start out with would you think it's hypocritical? Like you just said that. I don't necessarily think it's hypocritical because I think as I've grown up, and of course when you're little, it's like only adults say that word, son.
Yeah,
You know, and it's
yeah.
like that was kind of the message impressed upon you. So for me,
those are words for
Grown-up
when
words.
you're older.
yeah,
Grown-up words.
exactly. So which Sean, you can attest to because you've got kids.
Yeah, no, I don't cuss in front of my kids.
Right. So it's like, but for me, the thing is like as I've gotten older and become an adult, and I've become a little bit more lax with, hey, I'm a grown up.
Yeah.
Like nobody can restrict me.
Yeah.
It still does depend on whether it's like professional or I'm hanging out with friends.
Oh,
But at the same time, like I have noticed, like having gotten into the habit a little bit more at work, for instance, and just you let
Work's
things
where it
slip.
gets you.
Yeah.
'Cause, see, I didn't
And
cuss
then
a
you-
lot until I
yeah.
got into the workforce, and then you're around all these other people that cuss, and then
Yeah.
you start doing it, and it's like, man, it's the workforce.
Well, and I
man.
used
Yeah.
to actually be very adamant about like making it a point to not cuss. Like it was it was specifically a thing I went out of my way to make sure like I didn't do it because for one, I mean I do think for the most part it's unintelligent. I think like if you can't find an adjective to describe your situation other than a cuss word, it's like. But now I've gotten older and I'm like I know an adjective, I just don't care.
yeah,
You know?
Some of them just
Well,
aren't as effective.
the majority of
Yeah.
the time that I swear, it's to be funny.
Yes.
And that's if I think it's going to be funnier to say this word instead of crap,
Yep.
then I'm going to say that word.
Yeah, it adds
okay.
emphasis.
Yeah, but it's usually just me wanting to make somebody laugh.
That's me
So-
100%. If there's no word I won't say if I think it's gonna be funnier than another one.
Right,
I mean,
we know
seriously.
that.
If it's gonna be funnier that way, I'm gonna go.
I
with
just
it.
spit beer all over the place like before we started shooting this because he said something and it got me.
It wouldn't have been
It would
funny.
not have been funny. There wouldn't be beer
And it
all over the
definitely
table.
would not have been
if-
appropriate for live.
Absolutely not. So,
Well, I answered
no.
that question. Is there a word you won't say? No.
well,
Yeah,
again,
I do try not to.
I try not to
say
say
GD.
No, okay.
Oh,
no, that's
yes.
true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I
have
don't do that
slipped,
one.
and it's maybe one of the only cuss words or at
Yeah.
least combination of words that I
Yeah.
feel extremely guilty about.
I'm fine with
Like,
I'm fine with
as soon as
saying
I'm
that
like,
on right.
oh,
Exactly.
wow.
I'm the same way.
I'm fine with saying
Absolutely.
damn, but yeah, I never put God in front of it because that just makes me. I'm just saying that makes me.
I love that we
uncomfortable.
are describing this though, because
No.
it is like I
No,
think
yeah.
the
It makes
same
me,
thing.
It makes me uncomfortable when other people say it. When I hear that,
Yeah.
I'm just like, don't say that.
Right.
That's, and I, you know, and
Well,
some
it's-
people
it's
are just like, it
interesting-
doesn't mean nothing. It's the same as any. No, it's different.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if you're without faith, it's not different to you, but
Well, but,
It's like we're sitting here talking about believing in God and cussing at the same time. 'cause
God
it's
forgives
something
all
we're not
sins.
supposed to do. But
all sins.
you know, well, yeah, you're not supposed to swear, but at the same time, it's like sometimes it's warranted.
It's like
I
you
like
get to
think
heaven, it's
God
like-
says,
Yeah,
yeah, I would have
you're not
done that
supposed to
there
call
too.
people
you get
fat
to
either,
heaven.
but you
You
do.
get to heaven, and he's like, "Well, you did a lot of." It's like, but I never took your name in vain, sir.
But no, it is funny. I do the same thing. I try not to say that word as well, and it's actually interesting because that's one word that I've seen not be
Or two
bleeped out.
words.
Yeah, 2 words. It's not bleeped out anymore. It's actually
Yeah, they let it go.
they let it go
It
like
used to
on
be.
censors.
Oh, on
And-
television?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I mean,
yeah.
which they're letting more and more. But I'm
Yeah.
like, that was one where I was like, with an audience where you do have mostly,
Yeah.
I mean, still predominantly faithful people who,
Yeah.
I feel like that would have been one that they had still kept off
No,
the radar for a while. But regardless, it is funny because other than that,
Yeah, other than that,
I don't
that
say,
phrase-
I mean, or I will say any word in the book. I don't. It again depends on personal level,
Yeah.
and it's like
Yeah.
if I am on a personal level with you and a close enough friend,
yeah,
I'll say anything in the book because I'm admitting it because it's like
Yeah.
I trust you enough to know that it's like you know me deeper, that you know who I am as a person,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so I know that you won't think less of me because I talk that way or because I may say something a certain way.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I mean when it comes to like
Is there
even-
anybody that when you do say something that you it's that one person that makes you feel bad about it?
like are you saying like,
Like
is
for
there somebody
instance,
that
like
if I say it around somebody
if
they'll
I-
say something?
If I slip and cuss in front of my wife, I feel bad about it.
Yeah.
And my dad.
I gotcha.
Like
no,
if I cuss in
yes.
front of my dad, I feel bad about it.
That's
And
what I was about
did
to
it-
say.
I did it like a week ago. I said something and it flowed right out, and it was like immediately I'm just like, my dad's probably disappointed in me for saying this.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the F word or anything, but again, it's just like there's two people that
Yes.
when I feel like I'm being looked down upon.
yeah.
And
No,
I don't know why it's the only two people, but
Well, because they mean something to you.
yeah.
And
Well,
they're
my dad
close to you.
doesn't. I've heard my dad say 2 cuss words in the 36 years of my life.
Are you?
Oh yeah, just
That's
2.
restraint.
Just 2.
That's,
And one of
that
them was
is
over.
enormous
One of them was
restraint.
over a windshield wiper or something like. I don't
See,
even.
it's always the little shit that
It
gets you.
was- I'm telling you something really stupid. But yeah, and I don't even remember what the other one was, but I know it's been like twice.
Yeah.
So, but it seems like the older I get, the more I've slipped up in front of him,
Yeah.
and the same thing with my wife. Like the more I've
Well-
slipped up, like I don't want to say stuff like that in front of her, and I definitely don't want it to come out in front of my kids. And I kind of feel like if I let it come out in front of her, then eventually
Yeah.
It's
I'll
gonna
let it
come out
slip
in front of them.
Because I mean, I won't even let them watch like a movie that has cussing in it. My son's almost 6 years old, and he really wants to watch Bumblebee. And while Bumblebee was
A good
pretty,
movie.
it was a
and
good
it's
wholesome
fine.
movie, but within the first 20 minutes of the movie, there was like 4 cuss words, and I was like, we're gonna turn it off. And he didn't even know the words, so he's like, why are we turning it off? And I'm like, because they're saying some bad words and you can't hear them.
Yeah, which again, but I think that goes
Yeah.
to back to the bond that you've had with your father, where it's like there's a precedent you set early on, especially for your kids and the people that you do care
Yeah.
about. That it's like, I can crack up and joke around with you all, and I say, I mean, we've said every
Yeah.
word in the book around each other, just because that's how close we are to each other, and it's just that.
Well, it's also
It's
like
locker-
I said,
it's
it's also
locker
to
room
get a
talk,
laugh.
right?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
It is to
It's
get a
also
laugh.
to get a laugh.
What'd you say, Keith?
It's locker room talk,
It
right?
is. Yeah. That's true. But the thing is like, yes, it's one of those things where, because again, you all know me personally enough
Yeah.
to know who I am as a person and not to judge me.
you.
But the thing is I think it's a good thing that we put ourselves in check when we do think about those loved ones that we have that have impressed upon us. They would have been the very first
Yeah.
people to tell us not to cuss,
Yeah.
or hey, you don't say that word, or because they taught us to be respectful. And so
Yeah.
to be respectful of them, we make sure. I was helping my my brother-in-law and my sister build their treehouse this week. My parents, of course, were down there.
Uh-oh.
And, but it was just me, my brother-in-law, Jeff, and my dad. And we're just sitting up there at the treehouse, just us guys. But we're sitting there, and I just noticed, I guess, from being at work all the time, being around you all, And it's like it has been a while since I've been around them. And I was just, I didn't say anything too bad, but I'm sitting there and I slid a 2x4 across and I got a splinter and I said, damn it. And I'm just like, even when my dad's sitting there and saying something as simple like that, I typically refrain from it because I'm like, they didn't pause and say, what's wrong?
What'd you say?
Oh my God, yeah, slap me.
Fudge.
Exactly. So it's interesting, but yeah, I think it's just one way of showing respect to the people that have taught you those lessons.
Yeah.
And even though it's like, I'm not going to say that around them, even though they may know I say it. I'm still not going to say it around them because it's not respectful. But at the same time, it's like when I'm around somebody I really can, cut up with, I'm not going to hold back because I'm not afraid of you all prejudging me or judging me for saying those things.
No, we've already judged you.
That's true.
So.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, we've answered the questions. I think we've answered every one of those questions. Oh
we
my
did.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Keith, do you have any words you won't say?
I've already answered that.
Well, are there? Oh, I'm sorry, people. Are there any people you won't cuss around?
I tried not to in front of my parents.
Now I've heard you drop some bombs in front of your parents.
I have.
And they don't care. How you feel about that?
After David and Reggie.
Where'd you learn them from? Where would you say you learned the bulk of your
Oh, God.
profanities from?
Probably, a lot from my family, honestly, as bad as that sounds. But I don't know. I think the comedic stuff, it just, sadly, watching his movies that we have, I'm just like, I'm like.
I learned more words from Pulp Fiction than any other movie.
Gosh.
That'll teach you some words.
That'll teach you some words and how to put them together well. That's all I can say.
That's just brilliant writing.
It is.
It is.
What you can do with cuss words and what Tarantino does,
yeah.
It's like he's a poet.
He's the foot effing master. I know every word to Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
And it's mostly bad.
And they're bad, but it's so good.
It's so good when you put them together.
But no, I like that you even asked that. Where have you learned? Mine was definitely in school growing up.
Yeah.
Because I went through that.
Isn't that bad?
You go
Public
through
school?
that phase of like trying to be the rebel and trying to, it's like you're in elementary school. You hear the words being said, and you're like, oh, I'm not supposed to say those words. Like, mom and dad would get mad at me if they ever heard. But when you're a kid and you're trying to fit in, you're trying to find any way you can.
It is crazy how early, because you don't think about it, but you mentioned elementary school. But I heard curse words in elementary school.
Oh, yeah.
I was saying them.
And it kind of makes me wonder, like when I'm trying to shield my son from watching Bumblebee, and he's wanting to know, well, what words were bad. I'm trying to sit here and think to myself, I'm hoping that, he just has never learned those words.
Yeah.
So obviously he doesn't know they're bad.
Yeah.
Or he knows those words and he doesn't see anything wrong with them because he hears them in school every day.
Or he knows, like, you don't want him to know them. Yeah. So he's just like, I'm going to back up.
At 5.5 years old, I don't think his mind's working that good yet.
Right, yeah. But I think it is interesting, though, because even if he has, it's like, how do you feel in terms of, like you said, shielding him?
Yeah.
But do you think there's a point at which you're shielding or being more concerned about him hearing those words is going to affect how he responds to them when he, hears somebody else say it and he's just like shocked by it and it could, scar. I wouldn't say scar him. I don't want to be dramatic. Yeah. But it's like, how do you think it's going to feel like? At what point are you going to kind of break down that barrier? Or I guess tighten or loosen up on the,
I think movie ratings and what we are allowing on television is going to do that anyway. Yeah. I think at some point you're going to watch. I can't remember which one it is, but there's a Pixar movie with a cuss word.
Incredibles too.
Is it? Okay. And he watches it all the time, but it's one. Yeah. It's one word, and is it damn?
Yeah, I think he said. Yeah.
I don't give a damn.
He says. No, I think it was when he's trying to do. Yeah, I think it is damn, but I don't remember when he.
But yeah,
I don't know. Yeah,
but he doesn't recognize it, and it's just the one, so I let it go.
Yeah,
and it's like one of his favorite movies right now and everything, and I'm waiting for the day when he repeats that line.
Yeah,
and because after watching it so many times, he'll learn the context and he'll learn when to use it.
Right,
and at that point, like I said, I think. What he sees on TV, because right now on Netflix, their ratings, like you can watch something that's it's called like they do TVY7 or something like it's like youth something and
ages above 7.
So you'll watch something like that and it may have one of those words and I'm kind of like there's there's really not even PG is safe from cuss words anymore.
No.
So it's
but
just
I
kind
don't
of
think
like
the PG never was. I mean, Airplane was rated PG back in the day.
Well,
was it really?
That
It
was
has boobs.
That was
in it.
before they had the.
It's
That was
like-
before they had the PG-13 rating.
yeah.
But even
I mean,
then,
so is Air Bud. Air
Yeah.
Buddies is rated PG, and
Right.
my son watches that crap all the time.
And that's
it
more
doesn't
for,
have
like,
any cuss words in it.
action
I
violence.
always
Yeah,
that was
stuff like
always
that,
something
yeah.
that like really fascinated me was like when you found like children's like movie like when I was a
That
kid
did-
like
yeah.
Secret of Nim and the Transformers movie both have curse words in
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
And like that always blew me away when I was a kid. That's like, they just said that.
Yeah.
bad word, right? But it is funny that's that.
And I
was
think it's
the,
like only like one word in both of those movies, but still, I was just as a kid, you hear that one word, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh.
Well, I mean, but that also is like that was how we were raised. And
Yeah,
to
that's
know
true.
that those were
Absolutely.
bad words, and it was like so it was always like that's off limits. You don't
Yeah.
say that. But then, like you said, if your dad's slipping up or your mom's
Well, it's
slipping
like
up,
the
every
first
once in
time
a
I came
while,
home from school and said something, and my parents heard me. They immediately it was just like, "Where did you hear that?
Yes,
Don't ever say it again."
right,
Like, I mean, I learned really fast that it wasn't something that I was supposed to be
right.
saying. Now, why they still don't do that, I don't know. You know, if my dad wants, to spank me for cussing in front of him, he's welcome to do it. But it's kind of like at some point you stop correcting someone. But the other
Well,
night I
because-
said something in front of my wife, and she's just like, "Don't cuss,"
Yeah.
and it's just like,
Okay.
whoa, yeah,
Yeah,
it made me
yeah,
feel like
okay.
crap,
Right.
And that was her intention. Was that she does that a lot? It makes me feel like crap.
Yeah.
That's her intention.
But she's a good wife for
Yeah,
it.
Yeah.
she corrected me because
She
she
keeps you in
knows the
line.
same thing. She said things too. Trust me.
Yeah.
But she knows that if I'm allowed to do it in front
Right.
of her, then eventually it'll come out in
Exactly.
front of my kids.
I
and
was gonna say when you
that's-
set the precedent
Yeah.
of it not caring anymore, then you allow the floodgates are open, and it's like, oh, well, this is okay, and it's like you do allow it. And again, I think it's fine in certain circles. You draw those lines, and I think it is important that you still. To me, the severity of it, depending on the circumstance,
Yeah.
is still existent. Like I still do find myself thinking about it depending on what situation I'm in,
Yeah.
and I still catch myself like it's not become meaningless. And to me, when I start saying them to the point where they become so part of my vernacular
Yeah.
that it's like, okay, then I need to kind of look at myself in the mirror and be like, all right, man, you need to back off. Like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
quit using these words as such, in such like, again, then you do start to replace adjectives with just cuss words and you lose the ability to communicate, I think, even more effectively.
Yeah.
You just get lazy. And I don't ever want to be lazy in the way, I talk to people. It's like, I think, cutting through the cuss words, it allows you to be a lot more descriptive and get to the point. And so in that sense, it's like I do think it's a good thing to put ourselves in check, and we have those friends there of our own to put ourselves in check. And so I could see my dad easily saying, like, especially if I
Holding you accountable.
yeah, and if it's funny because I've seen now as I've gotten older, like if it was just me around my brother and my brother-in-law, and we were sitting around and I'd drop something and I'd said the S word or something, then it would be like I would have to really be in a moment of saying that, and they would understand it was coming from pure frustration.
Yeah.
Whereas if I had said it, even if it were the same incident happened, but my mom was standing there, I would not say it. And I know that my dad would like backhand me and be like, "You don't say that in front of your mom." It would just that would be the line that would be drawn.
Right.
And so in those instances, like there's still those parameters, and rightfully so. And I'm okay with
absolutely.
that. I think it's a good boundary. Those are good boundaries to have. But absolutely, I'll not cuss.
Pain is one
Yeah.
of the main things that drives me to cuss. Smashing a
Ooh,
finger,
yes.
stumping my toe on something, anything like that. It's like my immediate response is to cuss.
Yes.
And I have no idea why. It's like
Right.
instead of saying "ouch," it's a cuss. It's,
Right.
It's
Yeah.
cussing.
Yeah.
But it makes me feel better.
Exactly.
I mean,
No, absolutely.
Nothing takes away the throbbing of a thumb that's been hit by a hammer than just a plethora of cuss words.
It's so
It just-
true.
It does.
Or to me, technology. If I get really ticked and something is going wrong,
Oh, yeah.
and I'll just,
Oh,
a
absolutely.
flirt. If I'm
Yeah.
editing something and the computer's crashing or it's like
This
not
effing
saving,
thing.
oh
This
yeah,
yeah.
I
know
mean,
it.
it just. I
Yeah.
mean, my parents stopped. One of y'all remember the old movie in high school, 26 years.
Yeah.
Took us forever to make. There was one night where my parents literally they stopped. I was banging my hands on the keyboard, and I mean they heard it from downstairs, and they came up there and they said, "Put it." They were like, "Walk away from the computer, sit down on your bed." And they were like, "You're not getting back on there for at least a half hour." And I was yelling, I was screaming, I was like, "I gotta finish this!" And they were just like, we don't want to hear you walk across that floor for a half hour. And it was like I was in timeout.
Yeah.
And it was like when my anger got to me.
Yeah.
And they knew to put me in check.
Well, they
Yeah.
do, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because they also knew it'd be better for you in the end because you could cool down and
Right.
figure out what. But yeah, I mean,
And think straight. Yeah.
And make an award-winning movie.
you know, not throw discs across. Not throw
Cheap
discs
shot,
across.
Sean.
Yeah.
You son of a bitch.
Not,
Oh!
Then once you get so angry that you start throwing discs across the room and shatter them.
Well, that
Yeah.
from the early childhood.
He did that once.
But see,
too.
like what you just said to me right now,
Yep. That was
it
a bad.
didn't, it didn't hurt my feelings. What I'm getting at is like we just see the latest Endgame trailer.
Yeah.
And here's where a cuss word completely makes
Oh, yeah.
the gravity of a scene.
Yeah.
Captain America cusses for the first time in 21
and I really wish
films.
they hadn't shown that in the trailer, but
And
still.
they show him say "son of a bitch."
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it
it's
was
like
awesome.
the
Yeah.
only reason that has the weight that it has is because that's the first
Yeah.
time
Because it comes
the
from
Boy
Captain
Scout
America,
has
yeah.
cussed.
Right. Well, and
And-
not only that, but think about the gravity of which it's in a trailer.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
a Disney film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's gravity
That's
too.
it's
That's
setting the precedence for
But
the film.
like you
Yeah.
said, it would not have
It
that
would not
same
have
tone,
that tone
if
if
that
he
was
didn't-
always the
Right.
case.
Yep. Going after Thanos would not be the task that it's going to be if Captain America
Right.
didn't cuss.
And it's funny, but it is kind of on that, in a way, a ridiculous level of like, to that way. I mean, that's the gravity at which cussing can
sometimes
have.
it is needed.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and also when you don't use it, it becomes more effective when you do.
When you do.
And it makes
Yeah.
much more sense
Yeah.
than somebody just cussing all
Yeah,
the
'cause
time.
Tony Stark rides him about it throughout all this series of films.
Yeah.
But now
he's the
that
golden child.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
But-
I think at times it can even be necessary to get your point across.
Yeah, absolutely. It could be. It definitely can be. And not only that, but I think real quick. So I definitely remember my dad. I just want to throw out this to wrap up our segment. A moment in which you remember a significant other or your father figure or mother figure, whatever,
Yeah.
cussing, and you thinking, "Oh crap! Like this is
This is
serious."
serious.
Like
Yeah, if he says
and
it's serious.
you're right. You said you'd only heard him cuss twice in your life.
Yeah.
your dad.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I don't even remember. Like I was setting in. It was either.
do you remember the words?
Yeah, he said the S word.
Oh, he did.
And it was something over a windshield wiper or the hood not opening or something. I was sitting inside a vehicle, my Jeep or a pickup truck that I owned, and he was outside at the hood doing something. I don't even remember what he was doing.
Outside in the hood.
No, we
the
weren't in
hood.
the. Well, it is the hood now. Where he lives is it's the hood now. Yeah, and I heard him, and I was just like, "What did you just?" Yeah, and he was just like, "Yeah, sorry, I just." And it was just,
It's
but
so
it was
funny
just
when
like-
they apologize
and
because you're like, "Oh, I got him."
yeah, I mean, I was like 20-something years old, and I'm just like,
Oh man,
really?
Dang,
First
gone.
time, 20 years. Yeah,
Wow,
He
that's
did.
incredible.
yeah,
No, I will say my dad was my mom and dad. Like, it depended on the moment, but they never said any like, cussing too bad. I mean, S was as bad as it got.
yeah.
But the funny thing is, the F word was an absolute no-no.
Oh yeah,
Like the F word
It's the
was
mother of
taboo.
all cuss words.
Exactly.
That's right.
Like that's why I laugh at that scene.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is 1950s America in that sense of like a Christmas Story.
Yeah.
It was like that foretold like my childhood. It really is fit my
Yeah.
childhood. And so like when there was one time where my mom and dad were doing this renovation on our church that we used to go to, and they were working all day long, and we were just trying to get some food. I was with them, and it was just the three of us. We were trying to find the right place to get just anything to eat, and my mom kept wanting certain things, and we'd go to a restaurant, or it's just fast food.
Yeah.
Drive through the drive-through, they'd get the order wrong. We go to another one, they get the order wrong. Finally, on the third one, I mean, my dad was livid. We get to the third one, and my dad is sitting there, and I don't even know I forget the restaurant. We get out, and he's like, I'm going to check this before we pull out of this parking lot. He's like, if it's wrong, I'm going back in there, and they're changing it. He freaking pulled that out of the bag, and it was wrong, and it was the first and only time I ever heard. He was like, and like said the F word, dropped
Really?
the F bomb, got out of the car, and like I'm sitting here terrified. I'm like, I've never heard my dad say the F word. Like I was
He's
like,
ready to turn into the Hulk.
American Psycho. Like I was like, what the hell is going on? And so I'm just like kind of in shock. I'm like, Which again, that's how it can kind of be effective.
Yeah.
It's like, this is serious.
Yeah.
And my
That
mom
food was serious.
yeah, he was
Getting it right, man.
And this was the funny thing is my mom just laughed. And like he got out of the car, slammed the car door, and my mom just kind of started chuckling. And that was when I was like, okay, this is okay. I was like, my mom knew it was a moment. Like my dad does not say that word, and like he was at that boiling point.
He was ticked,
right. So it was like at that point he knew.
It's kind of like, I mean, best moment ever. Yes,
I know what you're gonna.
It was great though. I mean, because I've been around his family, and I never hear them cuss. And then like the day that their house got robbed, his dad like walks in, like, because we got there first and we came home from school, and Brandon called and was like, hey, our house was robbed. And so his dad walks in the front door, takes a look around, and just goes, bastards. And I was just like, oh, but I mean, understandably so. I mean, that was, and it's like, I think the first time I ever had it, but it's just.
And that wasn't even that bad.
And that wasn't
exactly.
no, not compared to what you just said. But still, I get it completely. I probably would have been saying way worse if it had been all my stuff that had just been
bastards.
ransomed.
Yes, exactly.
I would have been cussing up a storm if I had walked in my house and my house was completely torn apart from where they were grabbing everything they could.
Yeah. It was no. It was an interesting, but it's funny because I agree. I think that it's like, it still does have that gravity in terms of coming from those people who I don't hear it all the time.
Yeah.
But to me, I pay that same respect to them. Yeah. To not say those words around them. So good Vices segment, guys. That was a good Vices segment.
I
think it's time to wrap up the show.
It up, yeah.
But before we wrap it up, I did want to kind of throw out one more thing.
Yeah.
And that is our email. I just wanted to tell everybody to go out there and email us.
I was going to ask, because like, what if somebody just wants to send us a string of curse words?
That's true.
I
know people that'll do it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Please have them send it our way.
To what address?
I'll tell you, because it's right here in the bottom of our corner.
Oh, but what if they can't read?
Of the screen.
Yeah, what does that say?
I'll go ahead and tell you. RMPodcast at redmoonproductions.com. Sean?
What?
What's our email?
RMPodcast at redmoonproductions.com.
Damn right. Keith, what's it say?
I believe it says RMPodcast at redmoonproductions.com.
That's right, guys. So email us at rmpodcast at redmoonproductions.com with all the cuss words you want.
That's right.
We
Make 'em
won't.
good.
I promise you, we won't read those on air.
Caps.
That's right.
Yes, we love it when you scream at us through the interwebs.
Yes.
But until next time, I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian.
And
Keith Cheatham. Pulley belted sand lemurs oscillate translucent stymied subterranean gondola duckings.
Gondola duckings.
Yeah, exactly.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.